All right. I can't wait any longer. We have a huge week this week. Lots has happened. Taking a sip of my beverage. I'm drinking a Coca-Cola Zero. Yeah, we had a lot going on this week. I mean, let's just take a quick peek at the mega thread. And I want to see what's going on. We're gonna rush into the show today just because I'm so excited about what's going on. And we had some breaking news happen just an hour ago. All sorts of things going on. So let's take a quick peek here at what's happening. So this week we're gonna be talking about Calaxy, of course. The app launched after literally years of waiting and hoping and all that kind of stuff. And now we finally have Calaxy. And I got to say, it's a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways, but I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, and the needs improvement. This is a review of Calaxy that I want to give today. And it's going to be interesting because I've got Solo, the CEO of Calaxy, stopping by. So I've never actually reviewed a product or service with the founder of that company at the table. So that'll be interesting. But I'm really looking forward to talking to Solo. I had him on the show on episode 83 a couple weeks ago. So this is going to be a great episode because I don't want to talk about anything with him from April 10th or before. You know what I mean? Like, I already chatted about all that with him on episode 83, so go and listen to it. We're going to be talking about the future and unpacking the Calaxy app, which is going to be interesting. I think he's just I think he's touring a new apartment right now, so shout out to that guy. We've got a lot of other news too. We've got Shinhan Bank released some details in a presentation regarding their recent stablecoin remittance kind of proof of concept. And that was really interesting. I got a bunch of notes from that. A really fascinating interview that the HBAR Bull did. He published on Friday. He had Elaine and Shane from the HBAR Foundation and kind of like drilled down a bit on what exactly is going on over there. What are the numbers that we've been asking for? How do things work? And maybe kind of what do they feel they could have done better? So it was actually like, I was honestly a little bit surprised at how candid the interview was. And there were more questions that were raised in my mind, but I thought it was decent. We're going to talk about, the Algorand and Hedera thing. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, but we'll have to see. I don't like it when crypto communities are, bickering. We don't need it, but interesting nonetheless, because it basically, what the after product of it is one from UCL basically published a giant Twitter thread breaking down details and stuff of the paper and everything. So it was like really so many interesting insights from that. We're going to talk about fresh supply. They had some news here. Some other non-related Hedera stuff, some other Hedera-related stuff, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Real quick, maybe King Solomon, I don't know if you're free right now, but I'm just, I know that Solo's going to stop by, so I was wondering if you had 5 minutes maybe to just touch on the breaking news today that Dropp appeared as I guess it's a service provider for FedNow. So we've got a kind of FedNow Hedera potential connection. So just in kind of like the 5 minutes we have here, you were just doing a space as I was listening. Really interesting stuff. So like, what's the headline here? It's crazy.
I mean, I think it's I don't know. Where do you start? I think going and looking at the verbiage that the CEO of Dropp uses that Hedera leverages on their sites, right, is the first thing that you should be doing, because obviously they're leveraging Hedera proper, like the ledger. They're kind of agnostic, it seems like, in certain regards, but their assets that they utilize are USD, USDC, and HBAR, and they're built on top of the Hedera network. So then go and read on explore.fednow.org, which Drop is the newest service provider within the Federal Reserve's FedNow Instant Payments platform. Read that verbatim and look at hedera.com/users/DROPP, and then read the what's actually going to be facilitated within the FedNow from Drop as well. And I mean, you kind of see where it's going. It talks about being built out on a high throughput, low latency network, which is obviously Hedera. They don't mention Hedera directly, but we know that that's Hedera. It mentions digital wallets. It mentions NFTs. It mentions B2B, B2C, all the things that you would want to kind of be mentioned, and just kind of crazy to see. Now, I should preface this by saying, Brandon, like there's, if you look at all of the service providers within the FedNow showcase, there's like 108.
Yeah, I'm on the site now. I'm looking through,
I did a gigantic deep dive into probably 90 of them last August.
Okay.
And there was nothing directly tied to, like, there's some that have relationships to some DLTs and things like that. Nothing directly tied. Cypherium is another direct DLT integration into FedNow. They leverage or maybe forks like the interledger protocol stuff that Ripple developed, stuff like that. Outside of that, I mean, you don't see like any direct DLT companies. And this is actually really interesting to me. If you read through Drop's description of what they're doing within the FedNow service provider showcase aspects, like right on the FedNow site, it's really the first time that I've seen like it being fully Web3, fully crypto, fully digital wallets, like after even doing that deep dive. So even all their service descriptions, because that's what Drop does, right? And then it talks about micropayments and all that other stuff too. And they're the newest service provider. So I thought this isn't saying HBAR is going to the moon or any of that crap. It's just saying that should be a big validation of the technology in and of itself to be integrated into the FedNow stuff. So
that's the whole thing. It's just about finding those breadcrumbs, and just like, as we've learned in this space, these enterprise like real world use case things take a long time. And I think that really it's just about, are there any connections elsewhere in the ecosystem? Like I know on the EM Tech website, I had Carmel from EM Tech on the show recently, and even on their website, it's like they are working with or partnered with in some capacity, the U.S. Federal Reserve and stuff like that. So there are all these Hedera projects, startups, or enterprises using Hedera or adjacent to Hedera that are having these multiple points. Like we always see the Microsoft logo on places, and it's like you can only speculate. There isn't really any tangible clarity on like whether Hedera is being used in a lot of these cases, but it's always interesting to see another point of confirmation. I think that's what gets people excited, is something heading in that direction. But you're 100% correct, is like there's also other L1s referenced in there and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, not in the FedNow stuff. There's not really any. There's no other.
Oh,
yeah, there's not really any other layer ones ever mentioned in any of the FedNow stuff ever. Cypherium is a block. Is like a microcap.
Okay.
And they're integrated in too, but they're leveraging like interledger protocol and all that stuff. But like, there's not really any direct layer ones mentioned. I think Cypherium has their own coin. I mean, that's not financial advice either. I don't hold it right now. But I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that like you can get breadcrumbs just from reading. If you're in this space and you're trying to do well in this space and you're trying to learn about this space and how stuff's going to be integrated, I mean, it's very easy to go and look at what Drop is doing, leveraging the Hedera network, and go to Hedera's site and just read simple things, and then read what's actually on the FedNow site. A lot of the times you'll see people just trying to polarize every aspect of every announcement ever without reading anything. And it's like, to me, that's like a bastardization of like why we're even here. It's like, that's great. You might get a lot of eyes on it, but you're also spreading a lot of, craziness. Like, it's very easy to read for 2 minutes about what the FedNow is saying and what Drop is doing with FedNow right on the FedNow site. and to read how Drop is Drop is, built on Hedera, So when you see in the on the FedNow site that they're leveraging a distributed ledger that has, very high throughput, very low latency, things like that. If you do enough due diligence and you know how to read for 2 minutes of your life, you can go on a Hedera site and realize, oh, this is actually totally, they're talking about Hedera here. They might not mention it, but you know that stuff, because then you're not connecting dots. You're just literally understanding how these different announcements are coming out from different organizations. So I think that it should be said that a lot of people leverage announcements like this, and I'm sure you'll see stuff coming out where people are like, I created the space, HBAR in the Federal Reserve, ? But you'll see actual like space, like videos and stuff like that where people aren't even like reading, and they're just like, HBAR is going to be used in the Fed, and it's like, it's not really the case,
It's an opportunity to learn and kind of like start to understand, like when you start off in the Hedera ecosystem and you're kind of excited about that technology, it branches off into all new places where I'm just learning about how all sorts of different things work just through the curiosity of Hedera. So it's like, it's fun to see these connections and it's exciting, but you really kind of have to be careful how far you take it, because unless you have something tangible, yeah, you're right. It's like, we can get excited, but at the end of the day, it's really, you have to keep that research hat on. Like, that's why I love your approach to a lot of stuff, is you're really like, it's about research. It's about building up that knowledge and more the journey and not the destination,
100%. I've got to give a shout out before I hop down here, because I know you've got your space coming on, to Solo with everything within Calaxy. It's been amazing to watch you guys launch everything else. The platform is great. I'm looking forward to the new iterations of what you guys push out in the near future as well. And Brandon, this is your show, man. So I'm going to hop back down to listener and check out go to the FedNow Service Provider Showcase. I think Brandon pinned it, and look at what Drop's doing, and then just do a simple Google search of DROPP and then Hedera, and see where it's built and what's being leveraged, and make your own decisions about what might be coming down the pike. Awesome. And shout out to you, Brandon, as well. I'm gonna hop down to listener. So
appreciate you, boss.
Right on. This is great. Yeah, it's so crazy when you got breaking news in the ecosystem. I recommend everyone give King Solomon a follow if you aren't already. I mean, probably most folks are that are tuning in, but give him a follow just because he has that dedication to the research. There's no fluff. It's kind of, it's Stu. It's kind of like Hedera, where it's like, it's all about the substance. It's like, let's not worry about the hype. So huge shout out to King Solomon on that. But Solo, this is awesome to have you, man. I've been using Calaxy for years, but now it feels like I'm using it just for the first time. Like, actually having everybody in there from like the HBAR community, then all kinds of like these new faces, and it's just like, it's really interesting. And it's probably been a pretty wild experience for you. Like, does it feel weird for you guys? Like, now it's like live now after like all these years?
Yeah. Appreciate you for having me. Always love talking to the community. I've been doing spaces like for the last couple of days. It's been so fun. It's been almost like euphoric. Like, I feel like it's, I think in terms of how does it feel, it feels like the Hedera ecosystem is connected. Like, it's just so interesting how I feel like Calaxy and what our job was is to connect people. And originally it started off with the focus being creators to fans, like very much so that how do you make money? And if you remember the original applications, they were tough to use. They were better than most crypto applications, but it was just a decent crypto app. But now we wanted to take it to a level of polish and professionalism that people are familiar and accustomed to, and really rival what that experience looks like. And so we made the really tough decision after raising the 26 million strategic round to delay our launch even, a year or even longer. There was potential, for the project to get delayed again, and we were lucky and happy to be able to roll it out. But I think it feels euphoric, right? Like, I feel like it very much so represents like what the ethos of Hedera is. People are just hanging out in there. What's up, Patches? I see him in there. It's like probably the most active person in there, and it's fucking amazing to see, just because we always wanted to have that sort of thing. And I also feel like we have something that brings us together that other people are going to want. And I think it's exciting to see how we can leverage it to even grow our own ecosystem within Hedera and kind of make it so that, Calaxy is one of those things and mainstays for why you choose to come into Hedera and build on Hedera, and like the utility that's afforded to NFT projects and things like that. Within the space, I think we're a platform that helps enhance we want to try and play Magic Johnson LeBron, like in the ecosystem, not from like being important, but like more like we want to make people better. We want to be the platform that makes other projects better. And we want to enhance, what people are able to offer within the ecosystem. And that's why we've been so true to Hedera.
Right on. Yeah, that's a big piece of that. And I mean, for folks not familiar, I mean, Calaxy, has been, developing the ecosystem for a long time. It's finally live, and they're kind of addressing this creator economy that's valued at $250 billion. And there's like 200 million people that are a part of that kind of creator group. And as a creator myself in the music world, it's like all you really want to do is exchange value between you and your fan or your customer or whatever. But there's always like a centralized like middleman kind of thing. And I like the idea of a social platform, a digital wallet, blurring the lines between like what a Twitter or now X can be or a Patreon or a Cameo. And like, it's just been really interesting to use that app and see actual money start to flow back and forth. And I mean, now that people have kind of had a chance to use the app, what would you say is like the biggest piece of feedback that you've got so far that kind of like you kind of want to start diving into, where you're like, that's the next thing we want to take care of?
To be honest, I think it's one of those things where like the application, to be honest, the team is very surprised. To be honest, like very surprised. We didn't know if it was going to go that well. We didn't know if it was going to go like, if it was going to be glitchy or stable. We just never tested it at scale. The team is 15 people, right? So like 15 people put that application together. And so like, and Chad Weston's the only designer we have. So like he's that, it's a very neat, like I would like to equate our team to like a bunch of like Navy SEALs. Like that's very much how we have like a bunch of key players that make some really great plays for us. And so like even still, we didn't know what to expect. But I think what was most surprising was the fact that I think the level of polish was so far and above what people expected that like the things that people are nitpicking are just like not MVP things. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's great. It's a great problem. It's like people are comparing it immediately to X. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, is it the next best Blue Sky? Like people skip Blue Sky. They're like, oh, this thing can be above that. And so I think that's been interesting to see just because it does so much. And I think it's also been interesting to see that like a lot of the features people are requesting are like, things, because the demographic of people in there is very much so HBARbarians. And like in the coming months, it's like, how do we launch these creators and get their shops up and going and allow them and enable them to go sell to their distribution, their lines of distribution? That's kind of the second step of this. But despite it being heavily HBARbarians, a lot of the features people were requesting were things that were like sort of Web 2 social. And like they wanted to, use the platform not like as a additional utility to what would round out like a suite of apps to use, like a Twitter or Instagram and TikTok, and you use all these different social channels for everything else. It's kind of like people are like, no, like I would like to use this as a primary social channel. In order to do that, I need these things, which I think is a beautiful thing to see. So we've been really excited about the faith that people put in the project. Obviously, it takes a long time. A lot of the sentiments on the internet were very interesting like a month ago, right? People were like, oh, is the project diminishing? Is it a thing? Is Solo just talking on the internet and stuff? And it's just, you can't rush quality. Like we wanted it to be like what it was. And there's still bugs here and there. It's not a perfect application. There's a lot of smoothing out we want to do. DMs doesn't have a lot of animations that we wanted it. We want it to feel like, iMessage and things like that. So I expect a lot of improvements to like the messaging capabilities, the wallet to wallet capabilities and things like that.
I love that. Yeah. Like, I mean, you can definitely, it's a good problem to have when people are nitpicking about like, like a lack of an animation in a DM or something like that. Like that's a good problem to have. And I mean, the other side to this is like you can talk about like later in the show, I'm going to take a bit of a deep dive into the app and stuff. But I mean, when you talk about what's here already and you look at, like all the things you like, or maybe what could be improved, there's also that third category of like, it gets you thinking about what could be possible. And that's one thing that surprised me diving into the app is like just seeing the posts about ideas people have for certain features. Like I know Patches listening down there has been doing that a lot and everything. And it's like the team is just kind of responding like, oh, that's a good idea. This is a good idea. It just has it has like this momentum to it. And I mean, one thing you said specifically out of the blue that I found interesting was you said, and Chad is your designer, you said this is 50% of what Chad has designed. So basically implying that we're seeing 50% of what you guys have conceptualized.
Probably less.
So okay,
probably
okay,
less.
okay.
To be honest, 100% probably less. Like, to be honest. It's a feature factory. It's a ton of things. Crazy. It's like one of those things where like we really thought about it. And so like when we took the MVP approach, like even some of the features that were in the original iOS app aren't in there because we just decided to not ship it for an MVP. But like for instance, like stories used to be in the old app. Like we have that. It's still being worked on. Oh, right, Remember, we actually even had like we have the backend to like Spaces done like maybe 70% of it. Still need to work on the front end stuff. But like I said, everything we want to ship is we want it to be at the level of like what you would use, right? Like, so like, the social feed and the stuff that you have at Calaxy are like pretty robust for like a general MVP. We've explored the idea of reposts and things like that. It's kind of interesting because it's like, you want to have that type of feature, but at the same time, it's like Calaxy is kind of its own thing. It's not necessarily meant to be like Twitter. We never really wanted it to be like Twitter, to be honest, but the bigger opportunity is the Twitter audience really loves the platform. So it's kind of like, finding where we want to fit in and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably 50% of what it is. And like, that's not including things like DeFi and like all the other possibilities. We want an approach that's commercial, right? The commercial that you guys saw when we dropped it, like didn't say anything about crypto, didn't feel like anything like crypto. We envision a world where a bunch of regular people are actually using wallets and Hedera and things like that. So it's going to be exciting to figure out what features we can use and create and build using Web3 technology to like enable those behaviors, right? Like sending and receive, sending crypto through DM is going to be coming quite soon. To be honest, it's pretty far down the hatch, but like in terms of how far we worked on it, but like sending crypto is going to be as easy as like, you have tipping, that's really cool, but I want Brandon to be able to send $5 to his friend like he would on Venmo, right? Through DMs, right? Like that's going to be coming pretty soon. So things like that are going to make it even easier to justify why you come here and use Calaxy.
Right on. Okay, I love that. Yeah, I love the energy when it comes to new features. Because one thing also that you said, I might bring Patches up real quick, just because I know Patches was requesting earlier. But there's one thing that's really interesting because the hook of Calaxy is something that you've said before that just I think resonates with so many people, which is it's DMs with superpowers. And I think that just getting the basics right for DMs is so important. And just the basic experience of sending DMs in Calaxy has that smoothness that you'd expect. And I think that was really surprising, is like when I first started using those early kind of alphas and betas, I was like, even a year ago, it was kind of surprising the polish on there. And it was like, that's great. But the thing that I think people are now looking to is like, oh my God, you have crypto, you have Web3, you have all these things, group DMs. Oh my God. And like the ideas that get going around that, just before I throw it to Patches, I was just interested Solo, like just on the group DM headspace, it obviously must be top of mind for you guys being the superpower DM company.
Yeah, I would say that if you think about it, the DM with superpower, where does that come from? And so I think the way you think about it is taking a step back. What are peer-to-peer networks for? They connect people, right? And so for us, we were like, okay, we want to connect creators to fans and exchange value, blockchain, boom, makes sense. And then we were like, okay, what if we, in the old app, you actually had to click like on the star, you would have to go to like send a request, you'd go to the page, and the only way you could do that would be from there. But in Calaxy, you can actually do a lot of the request management stuff through DMs. Like 50% of the like work, like the code, is DMs. Like, to be honest, like in the management stuff, if you haven't yet done a video call, I recommend trying to do so with one of your friends. It's really good. It's high quality. It feels like FaceTime on there. But we, created that environment to be able to exchange all different types of values. So sending crypto through DM is the same place you want to send a picture, the same place you want to send an NFT, the same place you want to send a request to have a creator come to your house and, perform on your, balcony because you're proposing to your wife, whatever it is. We want to create an easy way for people to exchange that value for them. And so, when you're talking about group chats and things like that, there's endless possibilities. It's the first app that has a crypto wallet attached to it. Could very easily send, or airdrop entities to your community. That's something that we could teach like creators and like think Patreon and all the types of little treats you give to your fans and that kind of stuff. What if we Web3ify them through Web3ify them through airdrop technology, but make it accessible in a way that people are used to giving people shit? You know what I mean? Like, we want to build that kind of stuff that makes it really easy and turnkey to do this stuff. So that's, group chats are one, but then also just one-to-many everything is like what we want to do. We want people to go live. Like, there's so many things. So many things.
I'm getting the sense that whenever there's a feature request or an idea, the answer from you guys is like, yes, hold on. You know what I mean? Like, it's very kind of like there's a lot in the pipeline that you got, that your kind of highly specialized tight team is getting to. So it's exciting. Like, it's an MVP for sure, but I think that because it's more polished than expected, people's expectations all of a sudden shot up, which is definitely exciting. Patches, I wanted to throw it to you for a minute, just because you're a Calaxy super user. You're my Calaxy idol. And I wanted to maybe get your hot take on Calaxy so far.
Yeah, thanks for having me up. And I think it's just well-deserved flowers at the beginning. Like, the trajectory of everything you guys have been doing over the last 3 years, and then the culmination of that launch. It's the worst part of being an engineer, but the fact that nothing really happened, like there wasn't any, oh, that happened, but we'll fix that in the future. It was just smooth, at least from my experience. And, flowers to the design. I've been a UX designer for like 7-8 years, and I really am nitpicky about it. And it's just like, instead of finding little things that I dislike, I find little things that are why my experience feels good. Like the hat flip around when you bring up the post, the slight animation that's not linear, but has like a slow exponential curve on how it places like those 3 things right to the left. Like, it kind of reminds me, I don't know if you remember Path, but I loved Path, and it was because they did this. They did the same thing where they knew that the experience is 100%. Everything that happens to the user's screen was thought of, and you feel that even if you're not a designer. And I think that's why the elevated feel is what, as I would argue, I'm addicted to it. I am still like recovering from a surgery I had on Monday. So I'm in my bed with like ice packs and it's easy to just like go around this app, and it's really engaging to see where it can go. 'Cause I know you didn't plan for Twitter to kind of like burn its own IP down. And I would argue, from my perspective, rebrand in the worst way possible by becoming a variable and a close icon instead of like a dictionary branded different IP that everyone knows what a tweet is, right? And in that, I have to restart this app every day. I was just on Spaces with Frank Degods for the first time, and I couldn't talk or hear anyone. I had bumped down. I never could talk to him. And then you go over to Calaxy, and it's like everything is smooth. All of the user expectations are met and exceeded. And that juxtaposition between this powerhouse brand that's existed for decades and what you say is an MVP. And this point, like, props to you, because this is like a high class MVP in my perspective. And then it's just exciting to see where it goes, knowing that Hedera's underlining. I think it's, Brandon and me like geek out on like, okay, so you can like create a DM of DAOs that have like votes based on signatures of transaction. Like, it just continually goes down the thought process when you understand intimately how Hedera works and how you have fully abstracted that in the, I mean, obviously the seed phrase in the beginning, but other than that, you really fully abstracted that this is a crypto application to regular users, and I can onboard. And I did. I had a lunch day with 2 friends, and I onboarded them to Calaxy, and they aren't tech people, and it was easy. And like that to me was the real life use case of, I know you guys had this targeted market of creators specific, like you said, like an ancillary app. And I think you accidentally created something much, much, much bigger in potential, where we're not going to have to live in like an ad revenue, hyperbolic polarization to get
100%.
clicks. But yeah, it's instead like you just take a little bit of the actions that happen on it, and you have valuable content. You can have small little subgroups of 100 people who like a content creator, and that is enough for that creator to continue to create. It's like, it's that step in the next direction of how Web3 becomes tangible. And I'm impressed, man.
I appreciate it, man. I think the one thing I would say, and definitely a lot of nice words, and we appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the work you're helping us do, which is helping us try and find product market fit in real time. Obviously, that's something that comes over time, but like I appreciate the questions you guys are asking, the discourse, good, bad, and whatever. Like I actually love the criticisms too, and there are some. So like definitely not a perfect app. Have a lot of room to grow. Oh, also see that Cooper's in the crowd. Cooper's a huge contributor to our project as well. Definitely couldn't have done it without his support and obviously knowledge. But to talk more about Calaxy again, like I think a lot of what we are is we also are like just a social network, right? Like we connect people, and that's like kind of different than social media, right? Like when you think about a social media company, it's an ad agency, it's like media, it's like just popular media. The incentives are so bad because like even though X introduced monetized tweets and things like that, it just has created this area, this pit of like, clickbait, hate, and this kind of stuff that's going to drive views and get you paid. Whereas Calaxy doesn't really need to do that because it just connects people really well and takes a service fee to do so where it makes sense. Certain things we don't take fees on. For instance, like if you're going to send crypto to your friend, I don't need to get paid off that, right? Like it's not what we were here for. And so I think for us, like, the best thing about Calaxy right now, in my personal opinion, is that it feels like a true social network and app where it's just a community of people connecting. Like I'm so excited that Lehman joined today. It would be cool for him to, talk to all the Hedera community people and stuff, but there's not a single ad in the platform. And it's like so refreshing. You could spend hours in it just scrolling, connecting, seeing what this person did over their weekend, whatever discourse and people in the community thought about it. So it's very much so just like a true network of connecting people without having the intrusiveness of like ads and traditional incentive models ruining the experience for like the end user.
Yeah, I think that we're starting to see some misalignment. I think it's the business plan of an X or a Facebook or whatever is like very restrictive to, it feels like they're going to have to work their way backwards. And you guys are kind of already there. You started a bit behind the pack, but you're able to take a completely different direction, which is, I think, like an opportunity, a bit of an unfair advantage in a lot of ways.
Unfair is relative. 28, black, young kid. It's kind of hard. No, I'm joking. I'm just talking.
Right. I'm talking about Calaxy because, to be honest, when you look at X and any of these other apps, when we start to see the tide shift and people start to talk, instead of talking about Calaxy competing with X, but like X competing with apps like Calaxy, then it's going to be like they're going to have to do so much backtracking and all, like these user bases of hundreds of millions or billions of people already have these patterns and stuff. They're going to have to like completely re-onboard all their users. It's so exciting to see you guys starting off like fresh. You know what I mean? It's really exciting.
Yeah, we're super excited. There's definitely a long way to go. Like we just got here, so it's about building the community. We appreciate all the effort and focus, whatever we can do as a community to branch outside of our community. Obviously, we have the Hedera community strong. That's where we'll always be. That will always be my personal favorite community, but the goal is obviously to grow and scale. And so introducing this to your friends, we need to get rid of tribalism and like continue to expand to better introduce other ecosystems to our ecosystem, just so they can continue to grow and the project will get the life it needs. And, this isn't a win for Hedera or anything. I mean, it is, but it's also a win for Web3, right? Like there's a world where like the easiest wallet to use is Calaxy. Right? Like there's a very real world where the easiest wallet that somebody used for commercial reasons is Calaxy. The same way that you have social money sitting in your Venmo account because you don't always take your money out of your Venmo account and stuff. What's stopping that from being TVL stuck on Hedera? Right? Like there's no reason why that can't be the case. I just have to, we just have to think about it. Chad has to design it and we have to go and build it in a way that makes it fun and easy to use, which is the hard part. That takes 3, 5, 7, 100 years. But all jokes aside, like that's the key.
That's amazing, mate. Well, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you've probably got some stuff to do. But one thing that was interesting that I definitely is probably in the pipeline, but it brings up two things in my mind. So when you're subscribing to a fan club or when you're tipping somebody, it's using credit cards, which in its own way is so exciting because it's kind of wild. It's like someone takes a credit card, sends you a tip, or joins your fan club subscription, and then you're receiving payments and cashing out in HUSDC on Hedera to your non-custodial wallet. It's it's mind bending. That's amazing. And then the other component is, when people are going to be able to like subscribe to those fan clubs and do these things using crypto. Is that like one of those things that's just in the pipeline that has to get put out, or is it one of those things that's just tough about crypto and regulatory stuff? I'm curious why that decision was made.
Yeah, for us, we wanted to build we kind of wanted to build our way, the pathway to decentralized Web3 world is one that's ever changing and one that is super long. We're not going to get there overnight. And so we kind of, I hate, a lot of people hate when I use this word 2.5, Web 2.5. That's not really a term, whatever it is. Whatever this transitional period we are from the world of what our recent past has been to the future is going to be one that takes a little bit of time. And we wanted to make sure that, for us to develop that core group of users, it can't just be crypto degens. Like, we got to create like an actual community of people that come from various walks of life, not some echo chamber, because that's the, easiest way for us to pigeonhole ourselves into, not being able to grow or being known for one specific thing. And so we wanted to be a pretty open-ended platform for both Web 2 and 3 audiences. And the creators, primarily the demographic of them, a lot of them, are probably going to be more Web 2 facing. So there it wasn't like a ton of demand for said product, but we imagine, just given how we launched, the roadmap will actually be heavily influenced by like where the community takes it, which is why we as a team try to be very, very attentive and understanding about what the market is saying to us. And like, we love those things. So Pat, just keep doing what you're doing. We're just a couple guys in the room. We work for y'all. So we're trying to find a way to make sure that we're building products that you guys want to actually use. And so we'll be very attentive to what the market is thinking. But the original thinking was most of the creators don't know what crypto or HBAR is, which is why it's so exciting. Some of them are actually using it. Like, I've seen some crazy things where, like, we're opening ourselves to a Black Swan event where there was actually a creator that just showed up one day. We noticed that somebody recognized her from TikTok, and they're like, oh, this person is definitely a creator. They're worth a check. And like, we verified them. They're selling experiences. They set up their own shop and all their shit by themselves without us even telling them anything or ever even having a conversation once. So it was super intuitive and easy for someone that doesn't really even have a crazy Web3 background to pick up. And so we want to make sure that everything that we do is like that experience. And so until we can have across a set of features or build something out in a way that we're super comfortable and we're like, yeah, that's fire, we want to put this in people's hands. We make sure we hold it close to the chest and continue to incubate on those ideas so that they make sure that when they make it to you guys enjoy them to their fullest.
I love that, man. And also, just while I have you, I own 2 of these. The Myro collection, that was, if folks don't remember, that was like a drop that happened last year. I literally purchased an NFT on the Hedera network with my like Visa debit card in Canada. It had my head spinning. It was wild. I still have those.
Lucky man. Maybe you have good ones. You have Sweater Mile, right?
Dude, I have the Canadian sweater one. Like, what are the chances? You know what I mean?
Dude, you're so lucky. That's such a good one.
Oh man, but like, I'm curious, like, where, like, maybe you can't speak to it yet, but it is an NFT collection. It is really limited. I'm seeing people with PFPs on them on their Calaxy and stuff. Like, is the Miro kind of NFT collection coming into the fold in some way with the project? I'm curious kind of where that is in the Calaxy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule anything out, but I do happen to know that the designer behind them, Chad Weston's a fairly busy guy. He's building a pretty nice app for you guys. I don't know if you heard about it. Yeah. But yeah, no, to answer your question, we hope to do a lot more with Myro. Like, we want Myro to be a cultural icon. Like, there's no reason why like Myro can't be like Doge. Like, why can't Myro be like Doge? He has everything. Galaxy has a really nice brand story and it's holistic. And, Myro has a good story because it's like, he represents this change of like, the digital fan, the digital world where everything's just, accessible to you in the palm of your hand through these great peer-to-peer networks and technology. And so like, we hope to do a lot with Myro. Stay tuned. Definitely keep following the page and stuff like that. And obviously the blog posts too, as well. And, there will be more updates on Myro to come, but you're a very lucky guy to have the Sweater Myro. Everybody asks me about Sweater Myro.
Are you like really like that?
No, I'm being serious.
Like,
I'm being 100% dead serious. Everyone asks me about, they like that and Hashgraph Myro. People love Hashgraph miners.
Dude, okay, I'm gonna have to swap my PFP for the sweater mire. Oh my god, that's amazing.
People love that one. But
That's
yeah,
amazing. But also too, just wanted to wrap it up here, man. Is like, and I'll throw it to Patches after just if he has any last things. But like, I think the key thing here is two things. Is number one is I don't think people understand how big this is for the Hedera network. I think that right now, like you were saying, like the Hedera community is like jumping into it, but I do think that we're just at the beginning of that starting ramp of, like you're saying, other people coming in and onboarding in this whole new way. And I think that this is something that makes Hedera fun. We always hear about, Mance or Lehman or even Shane at the HBAR Foundation stuff talking about how the moment of mass adoption is when people start using apps that are leveraging Hedera but not realizing that they're using it. And I think that for anybody that's kind of taking a dive into Calaxy, it's like you start to get that feeling of like, oh, this could be one of those apps. Like it is a really big story. And I think also too, in general, when we talk about just circumstance, like what are the chances that this year, the year that Calaxy rises up, it's
I know we got lucky.
I know, but also that the flip side works too. Like in the ecosystem right now and in the crypto market, it's like morale has been at an all-time low. It's been so hard in a bear market and for these builders and all these different types of things. And something like Calaxy, even just for the Hedera community, is like that was so desperately needed. Like just something fun, exciting, and gets your imagination working. And like you said, like brings people together. I love how you kind of made the differentiation between social network and social media. So I think that for me, like that's really the headline here. It's like something really fun happened in Hedera that is also important and substantial. You know what I mean? Like it's really that's a huge story here. So like just huge shout out to you guys and the whole team. It's a most valuable product, not a minimum viable product.
I definitely appreciate that. And like, yeah, definitely happy to answer any of the questions that people have. Like I definitely make enough time to do these things. So Patches, if you have a lot of questions, I'm sure you might have, or we can one off definitely after that. But yeah, no, you're exactly right. Like, I mean, I think it's just, we do this because we wanted the reaction we got out of you guys. Like we didn't take any shortcuts. Like, God, you got to tell me that it is really fucking hard to be on Twitter and people being like, your project's diminishing. It's not a thing. Like me knowing what we were about to ship for you guys, but like 3, 4, 5 months ago, people were like, you guys are a scam, you're a fraud, like, din shitty, whatever it was. It was really funny, but like, that was really tough, but we did it because we wanted to make sure that when we had our moment and we brought it to you guys, that you guys would be over the moon about it. And so it was just great, like seeing people over the weekend, my phone blowing up like every 5 seconds, 100 notifications. People are just, giddy and super happy and, up at night thinking about Hedera. That's like why that's when you're like, okay, shit, something's good. Like when you're thinking about crypto and shit, like just regular, random, times of the night, people were just super excited. So we were super excited. So we were super happy and grateful to have that moment and, just appreciative about the role that everyone played here. Like I said, everyone, we had a lot of people contribute to our company. Got to give some props to, Spencer, our co-founder, for trusting our team to be able to put this stuff together. And, it's been tough. We had a lot of turnover at our company at times as well. But, our team has been able to stay, really close knit together. And we have a really great team inside. And I think, a lot of what you guys are seeing inside Calaxy is really how the company feels and works today. And so we want to make sure that we're glad that we could invite you guys into the fun.
Dig it. Patches, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to chime in on before I let Solo go here.
Yeah. Just I'll be real quick. Like, thank God there's something that's not just carbon credits that we can point to that's like a cool
or coupons.
Yeah, it's like every time I was like, no, Hedera's great. It tracks coupons for Walmart. It's like, yeah, but like I think this is the first application that shows the reason why Hedera is the user experience. Like juxtapose Mastodon to Calaxy, and it's clear as day why Hedera is superior when it comes to quick, fast transactions that are cheap. So I thank you for that. Now we don't have to just keep pointing to like carbon, though it's great. That is also great. It's now this is
great projects.
Yeah,
for sure.
My question is just, and I'll try to keep it brief. I know, Brandon, you got like probably a couple hours.
Yeah, I feel bad.
No, this was huge. I think this
But
was
I
huge.
remember Brandon's spaces back in the day when they were on Clubhouse. That's actually when we first met. I joined one of your
Yeah.
spaces like 3 years ago, something like that. It was a long fucking time ago.
Oh yeah, it was probably end of 2021. Man.
Jeez, man. We've been
Brandon's
doing
a
this for
machine.
a fucking while. And you've been at this for a while. But man, yeah, congrats to you in the show too. I hadn't said that to you guys, but yeah, he's been doing it. You guys got to thank Brandon for putting this stuff together and connecting people. Like without things like Calaxy, it's things like this that bring people together and keep us in contact and in dialogue all the time. So appreciate you for doing this thing. For sure. Give you your flowers too.
When
Flowers off.
when Hashgraph news and rumors on Galaxy Spaces, that's the next question.
I can't wait.
Oh, yeah, I've already got my Spaces bags packed over here. I'm just waiting.
Y'all are really trying to fucking jump shit so fast. X is gone, bro. Exit.
X is short for exit. I like that. The one question I had was just about how do you see music specifically? Because I think like that's where my mind's at. I know it's Brandon's mind's there. We've been doing a bunch of NFT metadata for music, and what we're trying to do with Turtle Moon, I think you guys just like you're miles ahead with the execution on ease of use for a musician. Like I tested it out. I just put my phone up, I played a riff, I posted it, I can put it in my fan club. That's, segmented. I'm assuming at some point we'll have token gating, and it's an easy user experience. And I don't know if you ever heard Vicente talk, but it's like musicians want to create, creators want to create. They don't care about tech. Yeah. And you guys did an amazing job removing the tech, but like, where do you guys see, like, I think the initial pass you were looking at big influencers and big products. Is this production change your mindset on maybe micro economies of micro creators and enabling different art sets to become creators and cultivate a community? Or is your angle still like, let's get these huge creators like Mr. Beast on Galaxy and have that angle of these giant people doing things on crypto?
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally it's both. Like, ideally it's both. You need to be both. And it's very hard to be both. A lot of venture capitalists will tell you not to try to do both.
Well, I think we lost Solo there.
Can you guys hear me?
There we go. We got you back. This damn X Spaces, I tell you.
Dude, I legit didn't even touch my phone and it muted me. That's crazy. They're really trying to shut me the fuck up. Anyway, if I go missing, you guys know. Knock on wood. But what I would say is, ideally you'd want to do both. A lot of venture capitalists will tell you not to try and do both because it's very tough to build a product that way. I would say from our perspective, music is super important for us. We think that we want to help all types of creators. And to be honest, when you say big creator, I think the Calaxy app, actually given that it is more for communities, is really more for that mid-sized download creator. Like, yeah, it's really great because Mr. Beast has such a following that he could make so much money given how many monetization channels are on Calaxy. So like it is for him too. But like what it really serves is it helps that middle 95% of people who aren't getting paid what they should, which, is a material impact on their quality of life, right? Like that's the matter of it, the fact. Like Mr. Beast is still gonna be rich regardless if Calaxy comes or not. He could be way richer. But his life is fine. Charlie D'Amelio is gonna be fine. Kabi Lem is gonna be fine. These people are gonna be fine. But who's mostly impacted are the mid-sized creators that could, make 6 figures a year making content. They may not have to have that job that they normally do. That's a very big, realistic life change that we're trying to make happen for people. And so I'd say for us, music is really important. The reason why it isn't in the MVP, super heavily executed is quite honestly out of, not like respect, but like, there's a lot of music streaming sort of, and it like that was one of the main use cases for blockchain NFTs and those types of things. There's a couple NFT streaming platforms on Hedera right now currently. So when we were thinking about building this, we were really thinking about the creator economy. But the goal is to really enhance that. We're going to support different media types, allow for better content publishing, and eventually when we get to desktop applications and things like that, it's going to be a lot easier for artists of all different kinds to build. And so those are things to look forward to. A desktop app would help a lot of the streamers as well as the musicians and like the Patreon people, the YouTubers and stuff. Whereas the mobile experience kind of makes sense for the lifestyle TikToker on the go. I have my phone with me everywhere kind of thing, if that makes sense to you. But the goal is to really become, a hub for every single type of creator, no matter what, you might be interested in.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's really the theme here is this is a minimum viable product that might be better than we expected, but it doesn't mean there's so much more coming. There's so much more in the pipeline. It's like we still have to remember that this is kind of just the first go. Here's a tidbit. The Discover page is going to be completely revamped. Like that's going to go away. Like the featured experiences scroll, it's really nice for MVP, but I want that to be like, a Netflix style scroll of all the experiences you could ever buy, both inside, outside your phone, both digital or, non-digital, or, both crypto or non-crypto, TikTok style, endless scroll experience. There's a lot to do on the app, right? It is very much an MVP. So I don't even really talk about that one publicly as much, but some alpha for you guys. But thinking about what that Discover page could really look like if it really had the horsepower to index, indexability was even that much better, where you could find different types of content, search different types of content, and that kind of stuff too. So it is an MVP. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, that Explore page, because that's the big thing for a lot of these other apps is bringing that in. So. Yeah, that's good. That's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. I guess that's going to be a whole algorithm type thing. And like you mentioned too, like physical products, is that, I mean, we can go on forever. I mean,
100%, 100% physical products is necessary.
Right on. Okay. That's crazy, man. Well, geez, my head's spinning. I'm legitimately overwhelmed. This is an exciting launch. I've been using Calaxy way too much on my phone. My usage is going to be over 24 hours at this point.
How much do your battery die? I had to figure out the PWA on a desktop because my phone kept dying.
Yeah, that's the only discount with the PWA. The PWAs, man, it was such a nice thing, but it is complicated. It definitely comes with its complications, but it definitely allowed us to very easily get into the hands of both Android and iOS users at the same time. Install process is kind of interesting, but I think when people figure it out, it's just way more efficient. It's super fast. You can actually get somebody into Galaxy within 10 seconds. I have screen recordings showing me downloading the app in less than 10 seconds. So it's super fast, high conversion rate, and obviously gets rid of Apple. So I loved your post a couple weeks ago talking about it, just because I think that's what's going to happen. The moment people realize, they're like, oh, it's so funny because the Web3 ecosystem is so interesting because the most distrusting group of people of any sort of centralized entity is part of them are like, oh, I don't know if I would. And for obvious reasons, it's not necessarily always safe to click on links and stuff in our space. But you don't trust Apple. You don't trust Apple until it's about the App Store. But when you think about what Apple's really doing, it is really destructive to innovation and how people build, right? Emerging technologies. It would just be very unwise to have released Galaxy in the App Store and have Apple yank us out because we have crypto rails. That would have been horrible. It definitely comes with its challenges, like battery life just get destroyed. It is definitely tough, but it definitely allows. The trade-off usually is that you're not able to build an application that moves like that in web usually. But for whatever reason, our team was able to pull off a pretty nice experience.
Yeah, my bad. I just thought it was because I was on it for 8 hours straight. I didn't know that.
No, it definitely is less optimized for your battery, but probably maybe 30% 30% less than normal. It's not horrible, but it's definitely hard to run that shit in a browser all day.
Right on. Well, Solo, honestly, huge shout out again to you and the team. Just to give folks an example, you can post something on Calaxy that's an idea for the app, and someone from the team responds great idea, and tagging each other. It's awesome over there. So huge shout out to you guys, just in kind of the cultures that's starting to develop on Calaxy. It's just awesome. And Patches too. Thanks for jumping up. I think that I'm more excited than ever about it. I'm excited for the week to not have to spend it all on X and have it not work properly.
We appreciate all the work that you guys do in the community. Appreciate you guys for getting the word out. We're super excited to have delivered this product to you. It is just the beginning, so please be excited. Please be attentive and use the app. That's the only thing we say. The more people use it, the more people get in here, the better of an experience it will be. There aren't even when we get a couple million people in here, then this is going to be a completely different type of ecosystem is going to feel. Even you won't come here. So it's going to be exciting. We're super excited for that day. So we really appreciate the support that you guys have for us. And we're excited to continue to build innovative, cool products for you guys to use.
Ron, awesome. Appreciate it, Solo. Patches, any last words?
No, I just appreciate you bringing me up. And I'm not sure, I joined a little late. Did you talk about your music yet? If you wanted me up for that, or if not, I can pop down.
Oh, I haven't talked about my music yet. I talked about it last episode, but I mean, I can mention it here. Let me search it up. Yeah, I'm dropping a song. I have a creative firm, Thurston and Davenport, and basically we work with a lot of builders and startups on Hedera and stuff. And music is going to be a big part of, the creator economy, as we're talking about. And in the real world, half of the artwork you consume is, music or audible, right? The other half is visual. That's kind of how it works out. But in the Web3 world, probably like over 95% of the artwork you consume is visual, and not a lot is audio, just because there's so much work that has to be done with metadata standards and all sorts of other different things. The music is a tough one, but it's going to be big. And I think the best way to get it started is start putting music out there. So we have a working group, Hashgraph NFT working group, where we're developing standards. Patches is a part of that. And just trying to get a music scene forming on Hedera, and doing it in a way that allows it to connect with the Web2 music world that already exists. So when the industry wants to come into the fold, it's not going to be a complete rework. It'll be like familiar territory, because it's all just metadata at the end of the day. But I'm putting out a track with my best friend and business partner, Joshua Dirksen, putting out a rock and roll track called Hello Future. It's a multi-file NFT. It's got a 3D collectible. It's got a full music video. It's got the full track in there. There's it's 50 HBAR, right? Good music should only cost a couple bucks. There's a deluxe edition though, which is limited to 50 copies. It's got 14 files in it, bunch of bonus stuff, and there's like a special cut of the music video and everything. And it's dropping Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and it's dropping on Turtle Moon, which I'm excited about, because Patches just dropped his song a couple months ago, also kind of helping with those metadata standards. So like, I'm stoked. It's been 9 months of work from the studio to the mainnet here, but I couldn't be more excited about it, just like with music going on. And Patches, I don't know if you had any thoughts on kind of your experience with your song, or like just seeing the little music scene in Hedera kind of like come alive a little bit,
Yeah. It was really exciting when we launched my single, because it was the first time I released music in 4 years. So that was cool. And then, people just kind of like sending screenshots, playing it in their hash pack, and seeing the metadata standard kind of excel exactly what you wanted to see with the deluxe edition and the regular edition. So there was just like a little bit of burst of music, and I'm excited to see how Hello Future does, because I think it's definitely got a broad appeal for Hederians, and how it's going to be coupled with Calaxy as a communication mechanism. Because even though we're minting on Turtle Moon, and it's an NFT that goes in your wallet, it's a music NFT, and your Calaxy account is a Hedera wallet. So the ability to both just talk on the platform as it exists today, and then I'm just really excited to see how NFT metadata standards are accelerated in that social setting, and how these NFTs that are being minted with this new standard and their dynamic ability can start to integrate into social aspects of content creation and cultivation. So it's we're early, obligatory, and all of these things are really culminating, and I'm really excited for people to see the amazing things in your deluxe and how much effort you guys put into this art, because it is it's not just the music, it's everything you guys put in there, and you can see the attention to detail you did. So excited for people to hear the song and check it out on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm pumped. And, I'm hoping to see these in people's Calaxy wallets. That's one thing that blows my mind, is moving NFTs from elsewhere into your Calaxy wallet is like really, it's a trip. It's like,
scary.
Whoa.
But I feel like we might get in trouble.
Uh-oh.
Because all the fun NFTs are coming to Calaxy. That's not fun.
Man, it's going to be wild. Yeah, I'm excited to see these in there. And I mean, I could see in the future, Solo, like sharing one of these music NFTs on the timeline or something. And it's like, because the song's in there and all, like you could,
it's just playing easily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or even like when you share a Spotify link on the platform that shall not be mentioned, it's like it throws a Spotify preview with the thing and stuff. It's I'm so excited to see what happens with music in particular.
I'd say Calaxy is BYO NFT.
No, it is. I tweeted something like that. It's like the biggest potluck of digital assets ever, where they could actually have like a renaissance and like fun. Bring your shit with you and like have fun. That's like what Calaxy is. That's the only social platform that does that right now. Bring your shit with you and have fun.
And you can mint NFTs on Calaxy too, which is like just like brings it up to the next level, which is
that's the last thing I wanted to ask. Can you guys start sharing metrics of like mints and just like, because I'm seeing all these likes and stuff, and I'm just like, man, I guess like just data science for me is like, I'd love to see how much action is happening on the Hedera network, the slow trajectory of how many people are being onboarded, because it's like the content from yesterday to today is so different because so many new people have joined. It's so cool.
For sure. Yeah, we'll have transparency is really important for us. We'll have like a bunch of reports and stuff going out. We want to make sure that we onboard like a good amount of like the Hedera ecosystem as we do this and get a good representation of what it looks like. Because if you really think about it, we it very much so was like I texted Chad like 2 weeks ago. I was like, do you want to go live on the 10th? And he's like, sure. And we just did, like out of nowhere. No one knew that this was a thing. So everyone was like surprised, like, what the fuck? Calaxy's out now? That's weird. So I think it would be nice to like give it like a full day, like a full fresh week of people, because we launched right in front of the weekend. Will be really nice to get like a full week of people in here just seeing what it's like. And people getting to show up on Monday and be like, oh wow, that happened over the weekend. That's good.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the soft launch. I thought that was fun. Like it was just kind of surprising. So, man, honestly, it's been so good chatting with you guys. I have to get to the news. I could literally talk about this for another 3 hours. I'm not even kidding, but I'm sure I'm going to be talking about it next week. And I'll be on Calaxy. So catch me on Calaxy. It's the same username. It's itsbrandond. And also follow Patches, of course. I mean, hopefully everyone's already following Solo on Calaxy. I mean, are you even on Calaxy if you're not following Solo? I have no idea. You know what I mean? It's like at this point, it's like, come on, guys, follow Solo. But anyways, cheers to you both. This has been a fantastic conversation. It's just everything that's said, more questions and more ideas come to my brain. So I've got to put a stop on it now so I can get to the rest of the news.
100%. I appreciate you for having me. You can put me down as a listener, and I'll be in the crowd. But I appreciate you guys. If you have any questions with the app, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or anybody on my team. They're all paid to be there for you guys. So like use them to your fucking advantage. But we're super excited. It's great. Let's go score some fucking points for Hedera.
Right on. Love it. Patches, all the best. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming up.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And just like I think the biggest point is Hedera is exciting again, and that's really cool.
Let's go. You heard it here. Hedera is on the next level. It's fun now. It's the fun network. Coupons, whatever. ESG, carbon credits, whatever. Tokenizing diamonds, meh. We've got social networking now. We're networking together. I want to get off this app. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go on Calaxy. What are we even doing here? Okay. Let's chat about some other stuff that's going on. I usually do my spiel. I mean, this is usually when I read about like supporting the show and all that. I didn't even have time to read the whole intro of the show that I usually do. Reminder that this is a weekly show, every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And I usually have a thing about supporting the show. Shout out to everyone supporting the show. People send HBAR to the show with fun memos. It makes my day. I love it. But honestly now, like I got my Calaxy profile, I got a couple tips there. And like I was saying, it's crazy. People, and I want to stress this just before I dive into the news. I want to stress this is people are putting their credit cards into Calaxy and sending payments to creators in the form of tips or fan club subscriptions or whatever. The creator is getting that as HUSDC in a non-custodial Hedera wallet. So it just, if you can kind of compute that, that is when we talk about, oh, we need more liquidity to USDC minted on Hedera. This is the way we might be able to fix that. So there's just you can go so deep on so many different facets of this app. But if you want to support the show, sure, you can send some HBAR, but now you can send a tip on Calaxy. I mean, that's what it's for. This is the creator economy happening in real time in front of us, guys. How great is this? Okay, what else is going on here? I want to talk about this HBAR Bull show that came out on Friday. Honestly, he does great interviews with some of the folks kind of high up in the ecosystem, because the timing is great on this one. Because I think that, as I was talking about I don't know if it was last episode, but a few episodes back, it just feels like something's a little bit different. It feels like something is clicking in a new way, especially with a lot of these recent announcements, and just, like we're talking about with Calaxy, also too, just kind of weird timing with steps forward in regulatory clarity or different things like that. It's just, things feel a little different. And I'm happy that this interview got put out with the HBAR Bull, interviewing Shane, CEO of the HBAR Foundation, and Elaine, Chief Strategy Officer, and they talked to a couple of points. I just wanted to touch on a few of them, just because I think that it's really interesting to think about if you're someone in the Hedera ecosystem and you're kind of curious on what's actually pushing initiatives forward and what does that take, because a lot of things rely on the HBAR Foundation, which is a entity separate from Hedera that gets grant money from Hedera to, accelerate different things inside the ecosystem. You see updates from them probably all the time about, partnering or giving grants to different use cases and projects and startups in the ecosystem. But that means that they are a tunnel that a lot of this action moves through. Hedera is a decentralized organization pretty much at this point. Like, Hedera is pretty much a DAO of these governing council members. So a lot of these different aspects of running, building out this network and onboarding people is outsourced to stuff like the HBAR Foundation. And let's just dive into it. So Shane talked about a couple really interesting points regarding their biggest challenges. And for anyone familiar with the journey of the HBAR Foundation, it was crazy because when they were announced, they weren't even ready to operate yet, right? And what Shane was talking about is Hedera wanted people to know who the HBAR Foundation was before transferring HBAR. So I guess that's really what it comes down to, is Hedera had to transfer a bunch of HBAR to this new entity, the foundation. And they didn't really want it to be a situation where it's like, hey, why did a bazillion HBAR get transferred? And who is this? So it makes sense, but it was a challenge because they had a lot of requests, and they basically admitted that their grantee experience hasn't been great, right? Because they were really forced to hit the ground running so early, without that scaffolding in place. I think that on a previous interview, Shane mentioned that they were literally giving out grants in cash at one point just to get things going. And that's basically the key challenge with this, with the HBAR Foundation, that I found really interesting is, you think about that, and it was just crazy how they launched. And he said that, and Elaine pointed out too, that they've refined a lot of their processes. And what I hear a lot about the foundation is things are slow. The process is really slow, like it's months and months and months. And for the first time, they kind of provided some insight into, the process hasn't been great. Here's why. And then here's where some improvements are happening. It turns out they've reduced the time by 100%, right? So the approval process went from 105 days to 51 days, and the initial scoping process went from 169 days to 81 days. So that process is tightened up, which is critical for getting some of these projects through the pipeline and getting things moving. Like that was a big challenge. And so it's worth pointing out that a major component of things getting moving on Hedera has sped up by 100%. So that's really great news. They also shared kind of some comparisons of statistics of kind of, what has been done, since the inception of the HBAR Foundation in accordance with kind of the KPIs that you track. And they basically, before they went in to talk about the numbers, Shane highlighted that literally there are only 17 employees and 12 contractors. So I knew that the HBAR Foundation team was really small, but that's like really tiny. Like that's a tiny team. And they talk about where things were in 2021 in May. The coin market cap ranking for Hedera was 60. The daily TPS was 7. And the revenue of Hedera was $200K for the year. So that's where Hedera was at in May 2021. And then June 2023, about 2 months ago, TPS is up 130 times. So that's a huge increase. Coin market cap ranking is 30, right? So jumped up 30 spots. Accounts have grown 11x. Network revenue is up 9.6x, right? So 1.7 million. And smart contract usage is up 14x. So obviously, like when you look at the aggregate and understanding that the foundation and also the Hashgraph Association as well, the Hashgraph Association was actually created before the foundation, but it's just worth understanding that a lot of the growth that we see in the network, especially right now, isn't so much due to Hedera as it is to this broader kind of adjacent grouping of organizations, associations, funds. And that's something really impressive. And I mean, Mance Harmon was on an interview, I think a couple months ago, and he mentioned specifically on a question of the correlation between new governing council members and growth of the network. And Mance Harmon basically stated explicitly that the network isn't really going to depend on the governing council for growth. They'll obviously depend on the governing council for governance, but he says that a lot of the growth in the next, 5 to 10 years of, in the Hedera ecosystem isn't really going to emanate directly from the governing council. Of course, they're going to have use cases, but that was an interesting tidbit. And so looking at where things have kind of sprung up, even just in this first couple of years, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that I've shared, and many people have shared their criticisms of the HBAR Foundation. But if you look at the numbers, I think that that's definitely, if we can continue on that trajectory, that'd be fantastic. And they do share, we're going to talk about some like hard predictions that they share. But you start to look at, okay, what did it take to do that? That was the question that was on everybody's mind, is how much HBAR of this initial grant was spent or earmarked for these grantees, right? How much did this growth cost? And so this is what Shane broke down. He said 1.9 billion HBAR, which is 37% of the total grant of 5.35 billion. And he says this includes the 250 million HBAR sent to the stake and rewards account. So snapshot there, right? Just about 2 billion of 5.4 billion HBAR utilized for the growth of the network. And this is the amount is largely due to the fact that when the HBAR Foundation was formed and this grant money was issued, HBAR was at a much higher price. Now, of course, HBAR is at a much lower price than it was at. So that's been a struggle, is the output of HBAR, the spending of HBAR increases just because of the nature of price action of the asset, which is interesting. But this raises a question, which is, to Shane's point, 94% of grants are milestone grants, which basically means that the HBAR doesn't get released until certain milestones are met. So what's really interesting is he mentions that of these 2 billion tokens, some of that is still locked for milestones. And I'm really interested to know, of that 2 billion, right, that he refers to as being the fuel to drive this growth, how much of that is currently just earmarked and has not already been distributed to these use cases? That would be an interesting thing to know. And I imagine they have that information because another thing they talked about was how another challenge for them was just the lack of systems that they had in place. And they mentioned that they do utilize Salesforce, and they are developing a lot of custom plugins that allow them to see real-time network activity. So this was an interesting fact to me, is essentially the foundation has dashboards that is basically, a Salesforce CRM install, but they also have these custom integrations of real-time data from the network. So they can actually see, are these KPIs for these grantees being met? So for example, if a milestone was like, you have to make X amount of accounts, it sounds like they can see that real-time data in their kind of CRM backend. So that's interesting. That to me sounds like the stuff that actually starts to make the foundation incredibly efficient, that they just obviously didn't have in place early on. And they also mentioned specifically, just back on that topic of how much of that was actually spent, Shane kind of touches on the fact that they try not to pay more than 10% of an initial investment and have the rest be milestones. So what that means is if they basically set a grant for a project at like, $200K, what they're effectively saying is the initial grant going to that project is going to be maximum $20K, and the rest is going to be milestone based. So there's a theme here, right, that I want to eventually see get drilled down on more, which is of the HBAR that has purportedly been set aside or locked into grants or whatever the verbiage is. It's going to be interesting to know what actual percentage has been spent. That's going to be interesting. But it was good to have those numbers nonetheless, and it just raises more questions, and the conversation continues. Elaine mentioned something interesting just on engagement in the ecosystem. She says only that they consider only 8% of Hedera accounts active. And obviously they're measuring that based off of how often those accounts are used, or what assets they'll hold, or how much they hold, or what the value of that account is. But she does mention that only 8% of accounts are considered active, which she, highlights is a low number. And she says there's a goal to kind of double down on an ecosystem flywheel, whatever that is, which I assume is kind of further integration of these dApps and these experiences, giving people more to do with their HBAR. And like, even Calaxy, right? Like we were talking to Solo earlier, and kind of the aspects of creator payouts and HUSDC and stuff like that. With these tokens, like just giving more utility and liquidity to these different assets and creating more ways to use them. That's, I imagine, what she's referring to as that ecosystem flywheel. And they said, of course, they've got a lot of unique and meaningful use cases like Shanahan Bank, which we're going to talk about just in a moment here. But there was something really interesting, is specifically when they mentioned Shanahan Bank and the fact that they have these kind of large, quote, meaningful use cases. They say there are more coming. And this was a video interview that the HBAR Bull was doing with Elaine and Shane, and there were a lot of grins and smirks when that was said. And they mentioned specifically that the business development team over there is hands-on. So again, this kind of continued confidence of, Shane and Mance, like all these guys and all these people like Elaine and everything, they're very kind of aware that some of the early predictions they made didn't pan out so well, kind of got egg on their face a little bit, but it's hard to hold back your expressions, especially on a video interview when you have that confidence and excitement, but can't really speak to it so much. You get that sense, right? You start to read between the lines a little bit and saying, there's more coming, so that's exciting, especially when you're referencing the Shinhan Bank use case. Asked specifically about HBAR Foundation's relationship with rug pulls, right? People in the ecosystem. And I don't necessarily like the term rug pull, but just so we're all on the same page, folks in the ecosystem asking about, what happens to these projects that the foundation invests in and rug pull effectively and disappear. Where'd that money go and how much money, went? And this is when Shane kind of reiterated the fact that they limit the initial investments to 10%. The rest is milestone driven. So he says kind of worst case, they leave with 10% of the investment. So obviously not great, but there of course there's a risk, especially in the Web3 space, if you're a grant giving body or an investment organization. So really it's like, it sucks. We've seen it happen, but it's nice to have that clarity. Now, this is where things get interesting when it comes to predictions. Elaine shared some predictions just in regards to like interoperability, easy engagement and experience, kind of on that theme of a ecosystem flywheel to kind of bring those active accounts in the ecosystem up from 8% to higher. But Shane specifically, in his kind of predictions, he wanted to really give some hard predictions. And what he mentioned was he expects, similar to Mance and Lehman in their other interview, he said that he predicts within the next 5 years, we're going to have a full governing council. Obviously, I think that arguably we could have a completely fresh governing council if term limit ends. They're going to have over 200 billion transactions. Okay. They're going to have revenue of 40 to 50 million. So that's really interesting. I've heard from a few people like Shane and Mance that they do predict Hedera having a revenue this year of 4 million, but knowing that in the next 5 years, predicting a revenue of 40 to 50 million, that is good to hear. And he also predicts that TPS will be at 10,000 TPS. So that's interesting. And this is what Shane mentioned that I didn't really see mentioned from this interview, but that stuck with me. The one line that really stuck with me is he said, they're working on things that could obliterate these numbers. And again, these bold predictions coming out from these folks in the past hasn't really led to much, or has led to something substantial, but taken longer than expected. So hearing Shane say they're working on things that could obliterate numbers such as 200 billion transactions, 50 million in revenue, and 10K TPS in 5 years, obliterating that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see more of that confidence. I mean, I like it. Cautiously optimistic or optimistically cautious. We'll have to see. But check out that interview. HBAR Bull, always great. Let's talk about Shinhan Bank. So this was an interesting one. We went deep on this kind of last episode, but I just want to touch on something where they had a presentation. Hedera uploaded it to their YouTube channel. They did a walkthrough. And basically, just the quick refresh for people is wire transfers, SWIFT transfers are slow between banks. They take multiple days. They can cost like $50. You don't know when it's going to get there. You can't see what's going on with your money. And major banks, including major banks on the Hedera Governing Council, like Shinhan Bank, like Standard Bank, have done multiple proof of concepts and pilot projects to do remittance between their banks on the Hedera network, leveraging stable coins. And there's a few interesting things that happened with this recent one that we talked about again on the last episode 86. But the problems with the international remittances, like I was talking about, and the process analysis of the first proof of concept that happened, I believe, last year or potentially in 2021. Pretty sure it was last year. What that proof of concept was is it was between Shinhan Bank and Standard Bank, both governing council members. And the key takeaways were they did a quick conversion feature between fiat and stable coins. They directly exchanged remittance message between the two banks based on DLT, aka Hedera. They issued and burned local currencies without converting to US dollar. That was kind of a key aspect to this, right? And they tracked remittance status in real time via an admin page. And basically the big achievements here were improving processing time from days to seconds, improving the transparency, and lower cost. So like right there is the three key pain points that Hedera addresses. Now here's where it gets interesting is this second proof of concept that happened just recently, which was a few different interesting additions and other elements brought into the fold. Each participating bank in this test issues its own stablecoin. This could be a native Hedera token or an ERC20 written in Solidity. So that was the big thing here, was this EVM element to it. Then there was, when a bank joins the remittance contract, a liquidity pool contract specific to that bank is created. This pool allows the bank to deposit its stablecoin and a common remittance token, example, USDC, recognized by all participating banks. The banks set buy or sell exchange rates in their liquidity pool. They can deposit or withdraw both the stablecoin and the remittance token as needed. Only the bank that owns the liquidity pool can manage these operations. This isn't an open market. So that was interesting. And also noting that in this second proof of concept, they were able to bring in real-time Forex quotes. So there's so many different layers and new components to this. It can't be understated that the first one that happened between these major banks leveraging Hedera was exciting, but this one even more so, just because there's so much more happening with this test. And basically the process was a user, from bank A wants to send money to another user in bank B. Let's say Alice is at bank A and Bob is at bank B. We all love Alice and Bob. Alice deposits her stable coins into the remittance contract or provides fiat to her bank, which then mints the equivalent stablecoin and interacts with the remittance contract. The remittance contract transfers Alice's stablecoin to her bank's liquidity pool and receives the equivalent amount of the remittance token, an example again, USDC, based on the set exchange rate. The remittance token is then deposited into Bob's bank liquidity pool. The liquidity pool for Bob's bank converts the remittance token back into its own stablecoin based on its exchange rate. The converted stablecoin is then sent to the remittance contract, which deposits into Bob's account. It's mind-bending. Not only what's happening just from a technical standpoint, but just because it's happening on that kind of major global bank scale, and that it's a product that's essentially going to sunset wire transfers, and it is happening on Hedera, just mind-bending. And again, this is coming from a presentation, so you can actually go and watch a demo of what I described happen in real time from the folks developing this use case. It's wild. So, and this is something that's been happening for years on Hedera. So this is big news. Essentially the key improvements of this proof of concept over the last one was, again, the kind of the real-time settlement, the real-time Forex rate integration, multiple currencies and banks, EVM compatible, a true 24-hour operation time. And I mean, my notes just watching it unfold was the apps being used, if this is kind of the design language that's being brought forward to users, it seems pretty straightforward. You just get the quote, you get the transfer. They put the option right beside a wire transfer. So when you're in your bank app and you want to send money, it just says, hey, you want to send a wire or do you want to send a global transfer? And it shows you the difference in the global transfer. It's interesting they use that term. It makes sense. You just can compare them side by side, right? One costs $50 and takes days. The other one, takes cents and gets done in seconds. So which one are you going to choose? KYC is needed, of course. the transactions are limited to $5,000. So just that's Forex law. And it's crazy because again, major banks, huge use case, it's a big deal, blah, blah, blah. In this demo, they open up Hashscan and they show these transactions on the Hashgraph. They open up the wallet in Hashpack, right? Like the bank open up these wallets in Hashpack to kind of show the transaction history and all these things happen. So this is a through and through Hedera use case, like very similar to Calaxy, right? Where in the sense of what the use case does or what the category is, couldn't be more different, but they both have that shared aspect of payments and in their approach of abstracting the Web3 component and having an easy user onboarding experience. Again, it's like another exciting moment that I really only think we can start having now that the network has reached these levels of maturity and these proof of concepts. It's just so exciting to see just these demos of these apps, seeing how easy they are. And like for the first time, I'm like, I think I could show my mom how to use this, right? I think I could show a friend how to get on this app and start posting or minting an NFT. It's wild. It feels like I've been waiting for it for years. So that's super exciting. So the Shinhan Bank stuff is huge. And I definitely invite people to check it out because at the end of the day, the theme of this episode is disruption, right? I think that a lot of people forget that the reason a lot of times when big things happen in the Hedera ecosystem, right, that sometimes it's not welcomed with open arms by the broader crypto community is because a lot of the revenue generated by enterprises and companies and organizations and projects in crypto is hidden fees, right? In those network gas fees. And because Hedera is, low fixed fees, all these different types of things, and is a disruptive technology, it means that it does threaten a lot of ways things currently work. And we see this, and this isn't like a wacky thing. Like this is just the nature of technology. Like when you have these disruptive technologies, and this was like a huge buzzword, like when Facebook and when PayPal, like all these other, disruptive technologies were coming into the fold, it was just wild to see giant companies like just bend at the knee because they're just being disrupted. You know what I mean? Like the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of rocks. This is just going to happen. And I think that that's really what we're going to start seeing is a lot of this disruption. I think we're going to start to see this happen in the Calaxy space, and then in these big giant enterprise use cases space, in the supply chain space. We've heard these terms too, like competitive differentiation. When enterprises want to use Hedera as a technology, they consciously avoid mentioning Hedera because they feel like it's their secret weapon, right? They feel like it's their competitive differentiation over their other competitors, over other supply chain people, over other social media applications. Like, I mean, folks like Calaxy are like, they wear Hedera badge the whole time just because they're real ones. But I mean, these enterprise guys, no way. Like Hedera is their secret weapon. It's a disruptive technology. And I think that with that though, like there sure are the negative sides, right? Like with the, the spats between the Algorand community and the Hedera community and all the struggles that we see with Hedera kind of breaking through the mainstream and stuff. It's tough. But on the flip side, it's exciting because you start to realize a lot of that disruption only affects a lot of people in crypto. And in the bigger picture, things are kind of the opposite, right? Like even Mance, right, from Swirls Labs talks about this, where we're in a bear market and things are going down. And in the real world, it's the exact opposite. Like now enterprise, major financial markets are starting to take a serious look at this technology and start to go live with these mature use cases that have worked their way well up the tech stack. And that is going to cause different types of disruption in their own respective industries using Hedera as that secret weapon. So I think that, that's what's on the top of my mind right now is I feel like the tides have changed a little bit. I feel like there's a lot of interesting, crazy things happening. And I feel like we're going to start to see a lot of disruption, right? And it's going to be a wild journey, but it's going to be kind of a rite of passage for Hedera, as it is for many disruptive technologies. There's a lot of headwinds ahead, but I think that it's going to be wild. And I think that again, with Calaxy and them competing in their own space, right? With Hedera in their back pocket as their secret weapon, kind of raising that like a flag, it's just going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out and what those dynamics are like. And I mean, we saw that kind of culminate in, again, that spat between the Hedera and Algorand community. And again, I want to say that, a lot of times Hedera gets criticism that's totally fair. We are in a bubble, guys. I mean, I'm coming to you live from the bubble effectively. And a lot of the criticism that Hedera gets is totally fair. It's all part of it, right? But I think that also too, just comes with the territory of being invested in, being a part of a technology that's disruptive. We're going to start to see more types of things like we've seen with the Algorand community, right? With them being upset about how Algorand is reflected in the UCL study or in certain graphs or charts published by the foundation and Hedera, or just, comparisons with DEXs done by community members. When you have a technology that seems too good to be true, you're going to come up against resistance, right? That's just the way things go. And it's been really good to see the healthy debate that has happened, and the ways in which I think some unfair criticisms leveraged against Hedera have been handled. But of course, there's also just a bunch of misinformation out there. I think it just comes with the territory. Hashgraph is a relatively new thing, and we're going to see a lot of other networks claim to be similar to Hedera when they're not. And we're going to start to see people paint Hedera in a light that shouldn't be painted in. But what can you do? I mean, this is when we can kind of take advice from the governing council. I mean, what does the governing council do when things are going incredibly well? They pretty much remain unfazed, and that upsets us sometimes. You know what I mean? And what does the governing council do when things are not going great? Well, they remain relatively unfazed, which is a good thing. So I think that if we take a page from the book of the governing council, I mean, it might be nice to remain unfazed about this stuff. Shout out to people having healthy debate, pushing back, but, let's not get too heated about this stuff. It is a bear market. People are looking for things to do. And it would just suck if a network like Algorand doesn't do well or something happens to that network. It just wouldn't be good for Hedera. That's just the way it is. It's like if the DLT space doesn't thrive, when people talk about, there's only going to be a couple networks and Hedera is going to be one of them. It's like, yeah, maybe in 5 or 10 years, but right now we're all kind of in the same boat, and, no other network has to fail for Hedera to succeed. It's just a fallacy. It's just not true. And I mean, there's criticisms to be thrown both ways, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's really all the same thing. Like when you look in the broad scheme of things, the big picture, the general public, the masses, it's blockchain. That's all it is. It's crypto. And if it's not doing great, it's not good for any particular ecosystem. So I think there's ways to look for opportunity, right? If there's a network like Algorand that's levying these kind of criticisms, whether they're fair or unfair, against Hedera, what are things that Hedera can do to make other networks better, or provide some more of that scaffolding, or all these different things we talk about? there's so many different networks that need a trust layer. I've talked to Patches about, the ordinal stuff and everything. It's like, is there different ways of handling these conversations? Can we change it from like my network's better than your network to like, could your network make my network better, or can our network make your network better? Like, isn't that just literally interoperability? But it is what it is. And it does bring us interesting stuff. In the mega thread pinned to the top of the Spaces, there's a giant breakdown directly from the sustainability, blockchain economics head of, UCL that did these studies, the DLT Science Foundation, that are being cited. And it's just fascinating to actually see that kind of stuff surfaced and explained. I read through the thread and I felt smarter and dumber at the same time. So I'd encourage people to check out the thread. It's definitely eye-opening. But again, I want to put a message out there. Like, if we want to talk about interoperability and breaking down silos, it's like, let's try to make each other's networks as good as they can. I think Hedera has so much to bring to other networks, but I mean, also we've borrowed a lot. We've learned a lot. Some networks do some things better than Hedera. Let's bring it together, guys. I don't like to see it, especially in a bear market. Let's get some Algorand people on Calaxy. Like, let's that's what I think what this vibe is about. Like, what if we got some Algorand people on Calaxy and went like, hey, let's take a breather here. Check this out. We got something cool. What do you guys want to see on here? I think that's what it's all about. So I dig it. We talked about this last episode, but the Hedera native staking has changed. There's a lot of opinion about it. It went live and into effect on the 11th. Long story short, staking has dropped natively from 6.5% to between 1.4 and 2.5%. The plus side is that's very good for the financial health, the sustainability of the network. On the negative side, it's horrific in regards to optics and definitely feels like a kick to retail and the community kind of in the midst of a bear market. So is it the right thing to do? I think so. It depends on how you look at it. I'm not super happy about it, but it does make sense. And I think that this is just something that we have to get used to. Like I was saying, is this governing council, their hands are clearly on the wheel, for better or for worse. They're making decisions. They're doing things. They're making mistakes, but there's stuff happening. Like, we have IBM and Boeing working on a HIP. I talked about that last episode too. They're coming alive. Like, everybody, like, it's a bear market. People are coming alive. So I'm not going to complain, but I am a little bummed saying goodbye to my 6.5 staking rewards. Also, who else does staking on Hedera? Well, Stater. Stater does the liquid staking, if folks are familiar with such hits as HBAR X. I think that it's worth kind of taking a look at that and going, okay, if there's another person providing a different method of staking, what impact does this have on those guys? Like what's going on? I just had a comment come in from just before I continue on that on the show. Mentioned, where'd it go? Okay, X is, I lost it. I had a comment come in from somebody. Oh, here it is. X said, William says, ads make this application, obviously referring to Calaxy, much less, he's saying this is in Twitter or X. He's saying, yeah, ads make this much less authentic and desirable. Yeah, I mean, like, ads, like Solo was talking about, it's like, if you've got a company that's an advertising company, like X is an advertising company, Facebook's an advertising company, Google is an advertising company, you're going to get ads. All of the different user interactions are going to be to serve advertising. So if you have Web3 applications like Mastodon or Calaxy, where you kind of separate that, just changes the dynamic completely. It's like, it's still kind of blowing my mind that there's a social networking application with no ads. There's no plan to add ads. It's just not part of the business model. It's fascinating. Anyways, back on to Stater. What's going on over there? So they mentioned that, of course, this is going to impact Stater and their staking. And this is what the impact is going to be. Smart contracts are going to remain unchanged, right? So, of course, those are audited. It's good to know those are unchanged. So there's not going to be like a switch up in that regard. The back end uses protocol staking, right? Referring to the native Hedera staking. So as a result, rewards from protocol staking will now align with the governance proposal, decreasing from 6.5 to 2.5% or below. The fee collected by the HBARX platform will also decrease. This fee was a source for an additional 10,000 HBAR rewards over protocol staking. To ensure HBARX's long-term viability, following the Governing Council's new reward structure, extra emissions will be reduced to 4,000 HBARs per day until the end of August. So obviously it seems like in 2 weeks, we're going to have another update from Stater in regards to how they're handling staking on their platform. And they're just saying like, no user action required. You're all good. It's good to go. You don't have to do anything. There's no impact on liquidity pools. Rewards will accrue at the new rate. Everything, will be normal. So good to know on their end. Again, it's a bummer change, but it is worth noting again, there is a silver lining to this. It's healthy for the longevity of the platform, just in regards to revenue and stuff, and how HBAR circulates in general. So not all bad. It's not all bad, guys. Also, too, FSCO talked about them quite a bit last episode. Just again, they drove headlines and are still driving headlines just with the key aspects of their use case, which is basically a tech stack that allows the MasterCard network to interface with the Hedera network, and FSCO onboarding other users to Hedera that were previously using the MasterCard Provenance blockchain product that was sunsetted, FSCO being the largest user of that network and product from MasterCard. And in a tweet, who sent this tweet? They responded to a tweet. So someone was just basically saying in general, quote, it was the Ethereum Mage on Twitter, said, quote, Hedera's strategic partnership with FSCO, right, Fresh Supply, and integration with the Continuity API and MasterCard network is driving the surge in HBAR price. Obviously, this was August 9th when we had a pump in HBAR. This collaboration opens up new opportunities for efficiency and value for both individuals and businesses, and FSCO responds to this, more coming. And this was on the 9th. So FSCO has been bold in the past when it comes to just kind of speculating on their own use case and teasing and laying those breadcrumbs. Even the CEO himself, David, who I've had on the show, being very upfront with what's coming, what to expect, deep insights about the use case. So FSCO sometimes to me feels like the same interactions you'd get from like a community NFT project. It's really weird. They're very responsive in a good way. So there's more coming from FSCO, specifically in, I feel, the MasterCard aspect. And just on the MasterCard aspect in particular, there's so much you can cut. There's a whole tinfoil hat world you can get yourself in, but more coming from FSCO. So that to me is something to highlight. I'm going to be watching that news really closely. Also, too, just in regards to discussions more broadly, there are plenty more discussions, and this was surfaced and highlighted by Zepsi, community member at the HBAR Foundation. Just on the topic of decentralization, I think this is healthy. There's a lot of conversation happening recently just in the crypto space on decentralization in particular. And I want to bring this up just because not only is there a more visible conversation around decentralization happening, which is great for Hedera because you can make many arguments that Hedera is the most decentralized L1 in existence. And there are many arguments you can make in opposition to that. But that's exciting because I feel that Hedera is positioned to be at the forefront of these debates and conversations, further kind of catapulting the brand and awareness and driving that curiosity. I think that any serious Hashgraph enthusiast or investor starts out with skepticism, like really hardcore skepticism. You have to have it in Web3. But I wanted to reference something that Mance said on a recent interview where he said, because of the governing council, and Lehman mentioned this too, what they've noticed in the world outside of crypto is this crisis in governance of all of these networks and headlines of, these scandals and hacks and all these different types of things, fraud and even with some of these centralized players and stuff. It spooks a lot of enterprise, right? And when you look at that quote unquote crisis of governance, Mance said specifically that when they go these days at this level of maturity to make these connections and pitches with enterprise, they literally just show the governing council and the conversation ends and they move on. Nothing else needs to be said. And I think with a lot of these enterprises seeing their peers and competitors across different geographies and markets, I think that that's an interesting component when you look at this conversation holistically, right? It feels like two different conversations happening, one inside of crypto about decentralization and one in kind of the enterprise side about governance. They're both talking about the same thing. Governance and decentralization can kind of be the same thing. And I think that conversation is going to continue to start merging. But again, that disruptive nature, people are always going to talk about, these scary enterprises and big companies that are part of Hedera. What does that mean? It's the Hashgraph Illuminati. What's going on? And I think that, again, this stuff is going to create pathways for conversation and knowledge sharing and learning and all these different types of things. And it's healthy to see these criticisms. We've got to have the bubble burst. Something interesting, too, that was mentioned by Mance on a recent interview was he was asked kind of, well, what is it going to take for the crypto ecosystem to head back into that bull market? Because Mance said basically there is no, I just got a comment from HBAR Gremlin. Shout out to you, HBAR Gremlin. Huge member of the ecosystem. Tune into his spaces on Wednesdays. It's spaces focused on the NFT ecosystem. He does it with Vicente from the Ceesay project. So shout out to you, Gremlin. If you see him down there, give him a follow. The convos today with Solo and Patches was just wild. Like, how often is it? Like, it's such a special time to be in Hedera because, like, how often is it that like a major new use case launches and then like, a couple of days later, you're just like chatting with the CEO and connecting and bring up a fellow community member and builder and heavyweight in his own right. And just kind of like, have Patches up there and just kind of like, it's just, sometimes I do these news spaces and I'm just like, and I had King Solomon on the show, like right when we started to talk about some breaking news regarding, potential connection between Hedera and the FedNow payment system with the recently announced integration with Dropp payments, which is a Hedera use case. Like, and I'm like, how deep are we into the show? We're almost 2 hours into the show. It's like, it's insanity. I mean, we were talking about how I started this for like 12 people on Clubhouse. Jesus, nuts. But it, what Mance was saying on those interviews, essentially saying like he doesn't see anything happening in the next year or two to be a catalyst to trigger a bull market. He says that he doesn't see things shaping up in a big way for another year to 2 years, which I have to agree with. It sucks, but it's true. But he said if there is a catalyst that could be a little bit of a crazy variable that could spur a bull market out of the blue, he says that would probably come from the finance industry, from Wall Street specifically. And he cites stuff like the BlackRock spot ETF. And what we did see is a bit of a rumor and breadcrumb just on that aspect in particular, which was According to contacts from inside BlackRock, an Investco spot Bitcoin ETF approved a matter of when, not if, likely in 4 to 6 months. So basically, the Galaxy CEO on an earnings call, one of the parties involved with this, and of course the BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF, would just send shockwaves through the crypto ecosystem. This came from a Bloomberg trading terminal. And the excerpt is basically, I'll just read quote. And again, this is from Mike, CEO of Galaxy. Quote, "It's a big deal because both our contacts from the Investco side and from the BlackRock side get you to think that this is a question of when, not if. That the outside window, this is particularly 6 months and, 4 to 6 months. So, the takeaway here is, could we see a spot Bitcoin ETF from BlackRock in the next 4 to 6 months? I think this is the type of thing Mance was talking about. If we do see a bull market in the, within the year, the fiscal year, not within 2023, that would be a stretch. It's probably going to be spurred by something from Wall Street. It's not going to be really related to anything else. And if we go even deeper, I haven't heard anyone from Hedera or Swirls or the foundation speak to this specifically, could also we see the quote unquote decoupling of HBAR, or Hedera on its own make a surprising upward move? What would need to be done to cause that within our own ecosystem? Is it a use case? Is it a governing council member? Is it a spike in TPS? Is it a combination of something? Obviously, they can't speak to those things because they're secrets, right? But that's a third thing, which is very highly unlikely, but exciting to think about nonetheless. Also, Lunar Crush, which is the kind of leading go-to spot for tracking social sentiment for the crypto ecosystem, they quoted, "Hedera's social activity has been soaring with 30 million engagements, up 250% over the last week." This was published August 8th. So it does seem that, the growth of Hedera just as a brand on social media and awareness and engagements is growing quite a bit as well. So we're going up across the board. I do feel we're going to come into more intense headwinds. There's a great saying, and I think it's so true for Hedera, and I think it's what we're going to experience. The further you climb up the mountain, the thinner the air gets. I think that because, again, Hedera Hashgraph is a disruptive technology, the further we go, the more adoption we get, the more awareness we generate, the more users we onboard, the harder it's going to get, I think, in the short term. I just think that's the nature of what it's going to be. The more momentum that we get, the more force that we get into penetrating the masses, the more resistance that we're going to meet, the more difficult that it's going to get, and the more momentum we're going to require. It's going to be kind of a bit of a critical mass situation where if people want to talk about the true step function, the true hockey stick moment on the charts, the true moon moment, I think it's going to happen after a period of intense growing resistance and intense growing growth and just that pressure. I think it's going to keep building and building and building. Again, the debates we're having with the Algorand community, I think, are just going to grow in intensity. And to me, for us community members, for us Hashgraph enthusiasts, HBARbarians, what do we do in that situation, right? As things grow and pressure builds and all of these different crazy things happen, what do we do? I'm just going to go off and we can go off and do our own things. We got Calaxy now. We got NFTs happening. We got fun stuff happening. We got other networks. Let's just keep connecting with these people, other creators, other builders, the other little guys in this bear market. That's a way we could make the impact less intense and arguably increase the efforts and chances of success of other networks. I hate to say it, but it's people say, Hedera is a comp, these are competitors of Hedera. And sure, we might have a dream that there's only, 3 networks and Hedera is one of those and all those kinds of things. But like, yeah, there could be more networks. Like, again, like, who knows what's going to happen? I think that when we look at that situation of, that pressure building, what could release the pressure? Having other people on your team, building those bridges, having that interoperability, right? And, I think that that's what it's all about. I think that the groundwork that we lay right now is going to make that easier down the road. And then just internally in our ecosystem, again, like I'm going to call out the foundation and Hedera and all those folks, the enterprises, the governing council and boards specifically. I think that what can help you guys out with those headwinds is tearing down those barriers and building those bridges with the Hedera consumer retail builder community out here, kind of the folks in these spaces, right? I think that that's something that can be done as well. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be intense, but Lunar Crush has the stats and we're on the up and up. So let's go. Geez, what other stuff do I have going on? I got that. I mean, what else is big? PayPal launched a stable coin. That's big. Obviously, it's not on Hedera, so wah, wah. And I mean, they copy and pasted some Solidity code, so it's like not even that good. But I mean, PayPal stablecoin, it's good for headlines. We got like in this bear market, guys. Like we have to get used to this idea that other networks seeing success, other use cases that aren't related to Hedera seeing success is good for Hedera. We need the brand of crypto. We need the brand of NFTs. We need the brand of DLTs and blockchain to be improved, right? To be accepted by the masses. And in a bear market where things are this tough, geez, if I see PayPal doing a stable coin and it doesn't involve Hedera, it's like, great. They probably been working on it since before Hedera even existed. So it's like, it takes them forever anyways to get one of these things live. It's like, awesome. Let's get it live. If we can create more positive experiences for regular people that involve crypto, it's like, great. I think I'm confident in the technology of Hedera. And I don't see another project succeeding being a deterrent for Hedera succeeding. I mean, we will reach a point where we'll start to see some intense head-to-head competition once the field is thin, or the herd is thin. But until then, it's like, I mean, cool, PayPal stablecoin crypto thing, like great, And just before we wind things down, circling back to the beginning of the show, the breaking news that we had, and I'm curious, I'm going to go on the Hedera subreddit just to see if any real-time conversation has been happening on this. And I just am getting reports now, more breaking news. I am looking at the charts. And HBAR, Hedera, has just surged to 6 cents once more. This is coming in live from CoinMarketCap. And I mean, when I say breaking news, I mean I got an alert on my telephone. But look at this, guys. Just as we've been talking, HBAR has risen 7.2% today. And can I go to the hour on here? I don't know if I can, but up substantially. We just are approaching a $2 billion market cap once again. We're holding steady at number 30 for market cap. We were at number 30 for volume, and now we're at number 83, but we are seeing an increase in volume of 21% at about $30 million of volume, and that's largely happening again over the last hour. So over the last hour, HBAR has rode up from 5.6 cents to 6 cents, up 7.2% for the day. HBAR is pumping, ladies and gentlemen. Is it Calaxy? I don't know. Is it the FedEx kind of connection through Drop? Maybe, probably not. I have no idea. Who knows? Am I going to be able to afford to subscribe to everybody that I want to subscribe to on Calaxy. I don't know. We'll find out. And this guy's moving. I know we got to wind down the show, but this is just kind of happening in real time. So I'm going to load up my TradingView charts. I haven't done this in a while, guys. So this is happening. And I want to see if this is just one of those like little fun moments, or if we're actually witnessing something wild happening. So I'm just going to take a peek here. And we're going to find out if this is a drill or not. So we did see it rise up to 6.2 cents. We're seeing a correction back down to 6 cents. And there is a chance of us holding a floor at 6 cents at some point. Let me see if I can get... are my indicators loading? I don't know. I can't see my support resistance levels. Let me load up my TradingView. Yeah, this is happening in real time. I'm doing some technical analysis here, guys. With HBAR currently, we're shooting up. We're all going to make it. Okay, so let's go down to the 15-minute charts and see what's going on. So I'm seeing potential support at 6 cents now. I'm using kind of an algorithmic, support resistance indicator. But yeah, so we are seeing quite, I don't know if I cut out when I switch apps. I mean, I don't know how X is working. I would be surprised if this Spaces is still running, going this long so far. So I mean, if Spaces is still running, shout out to you, Spaces. But we are seeing HBAR having a rise up, and I'm going down to the minute charts here. And we are seeing volume spikes. It looks like a big buy was done just at about 7 or 8 o'clock, which is interesting. Or no, actually, there was another one done. So yeah, we're seeing, this is really recent. Like this is stuff happening right now, guys. So we'll stick with it just for a little bit here as I wind down the show. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. If we do see something crazy happen, maybe I'll go live again. So make sure to follow along and stuff. If we do see a wild move in HBAR, of course, I'll go live on Twitter Spaces and start work late tomorrow. But we're back at 6 cents. That's the big headline here. That's the big breaking news, guys. But I'll keep an eye on the charts, but we're going to wind down the show because it's been a while. I gotta watch some TV or unplug my brain or something. I'm overstimulated from the week. This has been wild. I can't keep up with all this stuff. It's crazy. So another week behind us and another week ahead. Before I share my quick final thoughts for the week, a huge shout out to everyone listening live on Twitter Spaces right now. Another shout out to everyone listening to the recording on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and an extra shout out to all supporters of the show. The contributions mean so much. And thank you too. Like we had Solo Ceesay on, from Calaxy CEO to talk about the launch, all the exciting things happening there, some feedback about the app, some alpha was shared. Turns out they might be doing some major upgrades to the Explore page. So we'll see what happens there. Also patches hopped up, from Turtle Moon, and Hgraph. Awesome. There was great dynamic having both those guys up there. Also too, King Solomon, coming up as well at the top of the show to talk about the breaking news from the drop FedNow type stuff. And yeah, I mean, I talked about the theme of the show, disruption. I'm watching it happen live potentially on my HBAR charts right now. But yeah, I mean, Hedera is a disruptive technology. The further we climb up the mountain, the thinner the air is going to get. The further we go along, the more success we see, the more resistance we're going to have. And the further up the charts we go in price, also the more resistance we're going to see. Like that's just the name of the game. It's all about building that pressure, that momentum, and expanding out the ecosystem. I mean, I could go on, but that's the way it goes. And that's a wrap for Hashgraph News and Rumors, episode 87, broadcast live on Twitter Spaces every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and made available on all major podcast platforms the following Monday. You'll be able to listen to the recording of this on Twitter Spaces right away, but on all major podcast platforms tomorrow. I'll try to get it done on time if Twitter Spaces downloads thing is working properly. Sorry, X Spaces. Oh, I got to retype my friggin' script now. Oh my God. What a nightmare. If you'd like to become a supporter of the show, you can send an HBAR contribution to enthusiast.hbar using your Hedera wallet. The show's full Hedera address is in the podcast show notes, YouTube description, and in the mega thread pinned to the top of the Jumbotron. Get all the info you need about the show at itsbrandond.com/hbar. You can also send me a tip on Calaxy. I've got a little tip jar there. You can send a tip. Try that out. Another quick mention, dropping a breakthrough music NFT on Hedera. It's multi-file. It's a song for the Hedera community called Hello Future, written with my best friend and business partner, Joshua Dirksen, through our creative firm, Dirksen and Davenport. It's a vibe, guys. That drops on Turtle Moon Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, for 50 HBAR, right? This is a 3D collectible, a song written for you, and a music video in one NFT for a couple bucks. That's what music should be, guys. And there's also a deluxe edition. There's like 14 files in it. It's like crazy. There's only 50 of them. So keep an eye out for that. Tuesday. I'm not even kidding. Grab one of these. It's a couple bucks. Let's make music on Hedera a big deal, because I think that that's going to bring a lot of people over. I think that music is going to be a very exciting thing for people. And I'll see you next Sunday. I'm watching the charts here. We're still at 6 cents. So I think we're going to ride out at 6 cents for a bit, guys. Set your price alerts. I would honestly set a price alert for 5.5 cents in case we go down. I would also set a price alert probably for 6.2 cents. That'd be a good indicator of upward momentum. I also have a price alert for 7 cents. So check that out. Just again, we might see some serious moves on HBAR. Like it's been giddy up, guys. Like we hit 6 cents for the first time in a while just recently. And here we are again. Man, what an exciting time to be in this ecosystem. I said that I said this recently, but it does. I am getting the same feeling as I had back in 2021, just the beginning of HBAR. I don't know what it is. Something's in the air, guys. Something's in the air. And as usual, what I'm going to do is, if you see somebody listening to the show right now and you don't recognize their profile picture, literally send them a DM right now. Say hello. You both have something in common. You've been listening to this Spaces for over 2 hours. So clearly you are kindred spirits. Connect. Bridge the gap. And if you see somebody you recognize, send them a message right now. If you're listening to the Spaces, send them a message. Ask them what's new. I guarantee you they got something new going on. Also, too, like I guarantee you all have, Calaxy profiles and stuff. I don't want it to seem like I'm sponsored by Calaxy or like endorsing Calaxy. It's just literally the only escape that I have from social media right now. So that's why I talk about it so much. And with that, hello future, goodbye past.